It is generally a given that sports are physically demanding. Even those that look easy are actually pretty demanding on the body. That is why children are always encouraged to take up sports, as it helps them develop better. But then there are some sports which actually take a great toll on your body. Let's take a look at some of the toughest sports in the world. Number 15. Bull riding. When you look at the enclosure and see the angry bulls behind it, you know why bull riding makes its way on the list of toughest sports in the world. And we think that it would also make its way on the list of the stupidest things people can do pretty easily as well. When a huge angry bull tries to shake you off, it will. All you can do is hang on for as long as possible, and you're supposed to hang on for at least 8 seconds. But as it turns out, those 8 seconds have been termed the most dangerous 8 seconds in sports. Number 14. MMA and wrestling. Considering that these sports involve basically beating the opponent by sheer strength, it is obvious that it's one of the toughest sports in the world. What makes MMA even more challenging is that not only do you have to think about landing the perfect blows, but you also need to avoid getting hit by the opponent. And since the blows can come from anywhere, mental agility is also a must for MMA. And it's not just the ring where it's grueling. Even the training required to step in the ring is very rigorous. And perhaps that's why MMA has become such a fitness fad now. Number 13. Ice hockey. Most of us know how difficult it is to maintain our balance on skates. Imagine doing that at high speeds with constant turns and more than occasional bumps. Ice hockey requires great speed and agility, and often enough that the players have to go out in 45-second bursts of extreme speed and intensity. What makes ice hockey even more demanding is the fact that there's a mental factor that comes in, because you have to overcome the exhaustion that sets in after a burst to go out for another one. Number 12. Alpine skiing. If your eyebrows are going up in surprise, we understand. Skiing does not really look like a sport that requires a lot of physical duress. But surprising as it may be, elite alpine skiers need to have great muscular strength, endurance, coordination, agility, and balance. And they need to have strong legs, as that's what does most of the work. Not to mention, skiers tend to get injured a lot, so they need to be able to withstand those injuries, which in turn means they have to be in very good shape. Number 11. Rugby. Any contact sport is demanding on the body, and it doesn't just require strength, but speed, stamina, agility, and conditioning as well. That is why rugby is one of the toughest sports in the world. There's also an added tension because of the constant tussle that individuals and groups get into on the rugby field. Maintaining that intensity for 80 minutes is just not easy to do, which is why rugby players are usually extremely fit. Also why they are prone to injuries as well. Number 10. Boxing. It should come as no surprise to anyone that boxing is one of the toughest sports. It involves getting beaten up and then coming back from that beating to launch an assault of your own. But apart from the obvious requirement of strength, boxing also involves endurance and swiftness on the feet, not to mention the grueling training they go through to step in the ring. The worst part about boxing is that after each round, you will have to will yourself to go for another round of beating. And, well, it's not something that most of us would be capable of. Number 9. Basketball. Given that it's a 5-man sport, basketball requires a great deal of stamina. All of the players keep constantly moving back and forth on the court as the ball moves. And then there are those enormous leaps that they have to take from time to time. Basketball players need to be in great physical condition because it requires them to move constantly. Not to mention that the celebration that comes after scoring a basket is also pretty exhausting. Number 8. Tennis. Most of us are familiar with what a game of tennis looks like, and we know that it demands the kind of fitness most of us won't even think about. It requires frequent changes in direction, bursts of speed, power, and control. That tends to take a toll of the players, and that's the reason why many of them break down pretty often. Plus, the matches take around 2 hours and more per game. Combine that with the fact that it's mostly played under the sun, and you know that tennis is a game that needs a lot of physical conditioning. Number 7. Gymnastics. Watching the beautiful and graceful moves of gymnasts have made us all wish we could move like that. And while some of us may have managed to look graceful, most of us simply fell flat on our faces. That's because gymnastics is one of the most demanding sports. It basically depends on your body being extremely flexible to be able to pull off those moves, and the strength to be able to hold on to those poses without making a mess out of them. Not to mention that there's a lot of daring involved as well, as the more difficult and complex the maneuver is that they attempt, they end up getting higher marks. Of course, the flip side is that if they fail to pull it off, they are more or less certain of a loss. Number 6. Soccer. One look at a soccer field and most of us would not fancy taking a couple of rounds around it. It is huge, and the players need to cover a huge part of it in a grueling 90 minutes that takes a toll on their bodies. In terms of agility, soccer is probably the toughest sport in the world. And add that to the stamina, skills, and speed required to be able to be called a master of soccer is just mind-boggling. And if that was not enough, there are 11 players from the opposite team who would like nothing better than to bump you into the ground. Combine all that, and you know why soccer players are paid so much, and why they undergo such grueling training schedules. Number 5. Figure skating. Figure skating is a type of sport where teams, duos, or individual skaters spin around on the ice in complex formations. It was first introduced in the 1908 Summer Olympics in London as the first winter sport in Olympics. Figure skating blades used in this sport are typically 4.7 millimeters thick, with a slight curve of an arc of a circle having a radius of 180 to 220 centimeters. Figure skaters usually perform spins, lifts, jumps, throw jumps, moves in the field, death spirals, and various other moves while keeping their balance on ice. It is a sport which is very demanding, as it not only requires precision and accuracy of movements, but the throws and spins require an enormous amount of strength as well, not to mention falling down in practice countless times before perfecting it. Number 4. Swimming. Ever wondered why swimming is called the perfect workout? Because it uses all the muscles in your body, and that's just for beginners. If you take up swimming as a sport, you are in for a world of pain because it demands for you to use every part of your body consistently. It requires you to put in more than 100% every time, because even a 0.1 second loss of focus results in a loss. And since it is an individual sport, there is no one around to cover for you in case you make a mistake. And the amount of hard work that goes into swimming can easily be gauged by the fact that a swimmer's body is one of the most desirable ones. Number 3. Water polo. While wading in the water and throwing a ball around might not look like too much, there's a lot of physical activity that's required for water polo. For a simple test, just go to a pool and try wading in the water for half an hour. Another thing that makes water polo very tough to play is that half of the players are not visible under the water. That gives a lot of space for sly blows and pushing and kicking, and then there's the physical contact which takes place above the water. Not to mention the fact that you have to spend a lot of effort in trying not to drown. That is why water polo is one of the toughest sports in the world. Number 2. Triathlon. If there are any of you who have ever tried training for sports, you know that it's pretty challenging. But of all the sports, there is nothing better for building your endurance than swimming, cycling, and running. Unless, of course, you happen to be from Krypton. Then you would probably need the triathlon. Triathlon is a sport which requires athletes to swim 4 kilometers, cycle 180 kilometers, and run 42 kilometers over a pre-decided course, and the winner is declared on the basis of the overall time taken. And considering that any of the 3 is enough to leave most people panting, there is no doubt that the triathlon is one of the toughest sports in the world. Number 1. Decathlon. When it comes to sports, there is nothing tougher than the decathlon. Why? Because it combines 10 different and challenging sports into one. Just imagine sprinting, hurdling, long jump, high jump, shot put, discus, pole vault, 400 meter, 1500 meter, and javelin all at once over the course of 2 days. Training for them, even one of them professionally, is beyond many of us. But imagine training for all of them. Ugh. The kind of physical conditioning and duress that a decathlon needs is mind-numbing. Athletes are known to break down during a decathlon if they are not in the best possible physical condition. Simply put, if there was ever an Olympics for super men and women, decathlon would be the one sport played in it. Have you ever played any of these sports? Or do you know someone who's a professional at any of them? If so, do let us know the challenges and preparations that are required for it in the comment section below. And remember to subscribe to our channel for instant updates on all of our videos.